I am the head masseuse. Because of my excellence, the bosses who come to me have to make an appointment. On this day, when I came home, my husband brought a client to see me and asked me to serve him. I, Chen Huifang, am the gold medal technician of Tang Han Palace. I was dressed in a sexy Han Chinese dress, demure and unobtrusive. I walked into a well-decorated massage room. Technician Chen, you're here. I've been waiting for you for a long time. The client lying on the massage bed was a middle-aged man in a suit. His face was a little tired but more expectant. I smiled faintly and said softly, I'm very sorry to keep you long waiting. Technician Chen's status in Tang Han Palace, in the past that would be a flower girl. To be able to get your service, it's worth waiting for as long as it takes. The man laughed out loud. Boss Zhang lifted me up. Can we start now? I smiled and put down the suitcase in my hand, taking out the homemade essential oil inside. In our circle, Technician Chen is a big name. It's not easy to get an appointment with you. I've been looking forward to it for a long time. Boss Zhang is really good at talking. I was happy to be spoken to in such a way, and did my best to serve him. Fingers danced over his body like elves, each movement just right. The essential oil with its light aroma was able to refresh the mind. After applying it all over his body, under my massage technique, the oil penetrates the skin and creates a hot sensation. At this point, under my finger pressure, it will soon turn into a cold sensation, which is good for the body and skin, and the transformation is very soothing. Ah, it's so comfortable. Boss Zhang let out a contented sigh. I continued to perform the top massage techniques I had learned in Thailand, striving for perfection in every detail. My fingers gently kneaded on his shoulders as if I was stroking a soft feather. Technician Chen, your technique is fantastic. I've never enjoyed such a comfortable massage before. Boss Zhang's voice was filled with pleasure, with a slight moan. After completing the full body massage, I put a white towel over him and said, Boss Zhang, this essential oil of mine is all plant extracted. There is no need to wash it, so lie down for a while and put your clothes back on after the essential oil dries. I'll leave first. I just got up. Boss Zhang pulled my hand, his eyes full of desire. I know you still have a set of Supreme package, give me to use it too. This is very expensive the essential oils used are imported from Thailand. A gram is more than 80. Just as I finished speaking, Boss Zhang said, I'll charge $50,000. Okay Boss Zhang, I'll go get ready. I happily went to the lounge to bring more upscale essential oils, changed into Thai-style classical clothing, and returned to the room. Boss Zhang, the Supreme package costs 12,800. Boss Zhang quickly charged 50,000. After making sure the recharge arrived, I lit up the aromatherapy, but this time the essential oil was poured into my hands, rubbing my hot hands slowly and evenly coated his body. The whole body is massaged over, the boss of the Zhang Comfort are humming out. After finishing well, Mr. Zhang puts on his clothes with a red face. No wonder those friends recommend you. Now it's a relaxing and hot body. Good, I'll look for you in the future. Boss Zhang, take care. After I sent him out the door, the manager of the store smiled and congratulated. Huifang, you're our signature here now. Almost all the bosses who come here order you. Our boss has explained again and again to keep an eye on you. It's all for life, Manager Ma. I'll go back first after work. I smiled, put on my clothes and went home. As soon as I entered the house, I saw that my husband had prepared a sumptuous dinner with red wine for me. Why are you so moody tonight? I surprised myself by putting down my bag, sat down and prepared to eat up. Suddenly I saw 3 pairs of cutlery on the table. Guests at home? I asked in surprise. My husband was a little uncomfortable and finally said, Honey, there is an important customer today. It's Mr. Zhou, the owner of Carbon Shan Company, and you are the head honcho of Tang Hanka Panki, so you can help me entertain the customer. I looked at him in surprise. Do you know what you're talking about? I'm at Tang Han Palace for work. You're asking me to entertain clients at home. I'm your wife. What do you take me for? I know it's hard for you, but this time it's too important for me. As long as I can get this contract, I'll get a promotion and a raise, and then we'll be ready to buy a bigger house for the arrival of our children in the future. Don't you think so? My husband smiled with me and knocked my back behind me. My heart tightened. Although I don't resist this kind of thing, but doing this at home, I feel a little uncomfortable in my heart. Kaido, I know what you're thinking, but I don't want to do this. He came over and gently held my hand. Huifang, I know this is hard for you, but for the sake of our future, for the sake of our future child, just help me. His voice was full of pleading. I sighed helplessly, thinking that in order to buy a big house and prepare for our future children. I took a deep breath and tried to calm myself. Okay, just this once, I don't want to bring this kind of work into the house. He hugged me excitedly. Huifang, thank you, I will treat you right. He immediately sent a message and opened the door to wait at the elevator entrance. Not long after, a handsome man came in. Although he was already middle-aged, he looked like fresh meat, making me secretly surprised. This is Mr. Zhou, but he is our city's outstanding entrepreneur. Zhu Haitao introduced with a smile. I also smiled warmly. Good day, Mr. Zhou, thank you for taking care of my husband. Ms. Chen is polite, it's all about cooperation, it's also Manager Zhu's strong business skills. After a few of us bragged about each other, we started to eat. Hubby was the one who accompanied the whole meal and drank 5 bottles of red wine. At this time, the husband said, Huifan, Mr. Zhou has always been thinking about your craftsmanship, take advantage of this opportunity, you let Mr. Zhou see what you can do. Mr. Zhou's eyes lit up, and his mouth said, this isn't too good. I also took advantage of a few moments of drunkenness, got up and pulled General Manager Zhou's hand towards the guest room. I don't have any other skills, but I'm still very confident in this massage craft, so don't be polite. Mr. Zhou shrugged it off with an embarrassed expression. Hubby walked to the master bedroom and said, I can't, I'm going to bed. He finished and walked into the room, closing the door behind him without moving. Mr. Zhou revealed a happy face, no longer pushing back, followed me into the guest room. Inside the room, brought a set of bathrobe and handed it to him. Mr. Zhou, you change into it, the bathroom is right next to it, I'll go get the essential oil. Good. Mr. Zhou couldn't wait to take the clothes and go to the bathroom. I also feel some anticipation at this moment. Mr. Zhou is really handsome, my husband and him can't be compared at all. This time again, my husband himself proposed, I still have a few expectations inside. After mixing the essential oils in the living room, I brought sexy ancient Thai-style clothes, changed and pushed the door into the guest room. At this moment, I am nervous myself, this is the first time to do this kind of service at home. Mr. Zhou had already been lying on the bed looking at his cell phone, and after seeing me, the whole person was frozen. Immediately threw the phone aside and looked straight at me. Putting on a bathrobe, General Manager Zhou showed off her perfect body, making me feel my face a little hot. I don't know if it's because I drank too much wine, or if I was really looking forward to this kind of thing. Hubby usually socialize a lot, many times back to fall asleep, in the physical needs he simply cannot meet me. In the store, I have seen too many handsome men, I actually have long been thinking about it, looking forward to one day to have a different encounter. After I pounced on the blanket, I blushed and said, Mr. Zhou, you lie down on this and take off your top. Mr. Zhou quickly took his top off and then lay down. I slowly poured the essential oil on him and began to press and rub. Mr. Zhou, this essential oil blending method is something I learned from the Thai side. It has a healing effect on all the skin. At first there will be a hot and spicy feeling, and soon it will become comfortable. Good. After I pushed and nudged him vigorously all over his body, my fingers gently touching the skin and roaming around his body, Mr. Zhou's comfortable body was shaking and trembling. When this whole set was over, Mr. Zhou suddenly pulled me into his arms, his eyes full of hunger. I want deeper service, you know I want it. No, this is my home. I panicked, but there were still a few moments of anticipation in my heart. I'll give your husband all the company's projects, you'll be in charge of hospitality, I know his boss well, all I have to do is say the word and your husband can be the general manager. He said, his hands already roaming over my body. I struggled slightly and shook my head, this will ruin our relationship as a couple. I promise it won't, he'll just thank you, and I guarantee he can get a promotion and a raise, even earning over $300,000 a year won't be a problem. His words my heart moved, looking at this handsome man in front of me, coupled with my husband's usual inability to make me satisfied. Soon I put down my resistance and whispered, then you lie down. Mr. Zhou was ecstatic, immediately lay down. I took a deep breath, undo the belt, the clothes fell and walked over. When it was over it was early morning and Mr. Chow left full of joy. I cleaned, opened the door and entered the bedroom, and saw my husband has been huffing and puffing. I look complex lying next to him, long time cannot fall asleep. The next day at noon, I just woke up from a nap, I received a call from my husband, said in an excited tone, "Wife, I was promoted, the boss gave me $300,000 a year. Congratulations, after a while, we can go to see the house, and then prepare for the preparation of pregnancy." I also mentioned that he is happy and can move forward with our life plans. "Sure, I'll take you shopping on the weekend, I have things to do, so I'll leave you to it," he said excitedly and then turned it off. This is the first time he offered to accompany me for shopping. I smiled and inexplicably blushed when I thought of Mr. Joe's body and that it was really awesome in that area. If only my husband was as good as him. Weekend, my husband and I shopped the entire mall, bought a whole lot of things. Near dinner time, we put all the items into the car, ready to find a place to eat. Just sat in the cab, my husband nervously said, "Huifang, go to the 6-star hotel to eat tonight. Mr. Zhou treats me, but also introduce me to customers. You take your tools to go, can you?" I thumped in my heart and instantly understood what he meant. I looked at him coldly and said, "Zhu Haitao, what do you mean? Treating me as your trading tool?" Seeing that I was angry, he hurriedly explained, "Huifang, Mr. Zhou has always praised your craftsmanship. He is introducing me to a big shot in the city this time. If I can get acquainted with such a character, I will be able to soar in the future. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for me, so please help me." I looked at his pleading demeanor and had mixed feelings in my heart. My trust and expectations of him completely collapsed at this moment. I coldly said, "Zhu Haitao, you really let me down." Seeing my resolute attitude, he even knelt down in the driver's side and said with tears in his voice, "Huifang, I'm begging you. This is the last time, as long as you can help me, everything in the family will be up to you from now on." I looked at his appearance and felt a pang of sadness in my heart. But at the same time, when I thought of Mr. Zhou's body and handsomeness, as well as his toughness in that area, inexplicably there was some anticipation in my heart. I took a deep breath and said, "All right, I promise you. But you have to remember, this is the last time." When he heard me say this, he was overjoyed and nodded his head. "Huifang, thank you, I will definitely not forget how good you are." So, I followed him to the 6-star hotel. Along the way, my heart was full of uneasiness and apprehension, as well as anticipation and stealing joy, showing the contradictory psychology of human nature to the fullest. When I stood at the door of the luxury suite of the 6-star hotel, my mood was exceptionally complicated. Zhu Haitao knocked on the door with a flattering face, and the door quickly opened. A middle-aged man in a suit appeared at the door. He looked at me with a smile and said, "You are Ms. Chen Huifang, right? Please come in." I followed him into the suite. The room was spacious and luxurious, revealing an air of nobility everywhere. I sat on the sofa and he poured me a glass of red wine, then sat across from me, carefully sizing me up. I was a little uncomfortable by his look, but tried to remain calm. In the recent year, Miss Chen's name has appeared in my ears many times, but I've never had the chance to meet. This time we finally meet, but it's really better to hear 100 times than to see. He slowly opened his mouth to laugh. I smiled slightly and said, "Mr. Wang is too kind." He shook his head and said, "No, I'm not overpraising. Ms. Chen, your beauty and craftsmanship are known as a sister in the area, and I appreciate you." Mr. Zhou said, "Come, let's sit down and chat while we eat." As soon as the four of us sat down, Mr. Zhou and Mr. Wang toasted, "I am a female, drink less," my husband in order to climb up to them, "Drinking is like drinking water." Only 20 minutes, he was lying on the table drunk. I was how to call cannot wake up. Mr. Zhou asked the waiter to come in and carry him to the lounge next to him. By the time only the three of us were left, I was ready to serve them. Mr. Wang suddenly said, "Ms. Chen, there are no outsiders now, so I'll be blunt. Have you ever thought about joining our company? We can provide you with a broader development platform." I froze, not expecting him to say that. Without waiting for me to answer, Mr. Wang grabbed his hand and said, Tanyuhan Palace is the most upscale entertainment place here. Your high income is just using ordinary people as a standard. In our eyes, you still belong to the low-income group. For the same job, in our place, I can guarantee that for every guest received, the guaranteed base is $100,000, and if the commission exceeds $100,000, it will be calculated according to the commission. Mr. Zhou followed up by saying, our customer projects are at least 10 million level, give you 1% commission, and the number of people received in a month is just a few, while the income is at least a few $100,000, and millions of dollars is also a common thing. I was surprised. This is too much better than Tanyuhan Palace, and different daily reception 405. Mr. Wang, Mr. Zhou, you guys aren't kidding me, right? Aren't you guys talking about cooperation with my husband? I asked in surprise. Mr. Zhou laughed and looked at the wine glass in his hand. To put it mildly, your husband doesn't have that kind of ability. He has an annual salary of 300,000 and it's because of you. Mr. Wang followed up, no matter men and women, in this society, money is still good to earn by yourself, money in your own hands, then you have a status and the right to speak. Zhu Haitao can't become the atmosphere, he doesn't have the strength, and he doesn't have the gas. You treat him as a husband, he treats you as a tool. Thinking about the face of these two husbands, I took a deep breath and nodded my head. Okay, I am willing to join your company. Mr. Wang was very happy. He said, great, Ms. Chen, from now on, you will be the manager of our company's public relations department. You have an independent office, you can move freely. The premise is that when there is a hospitality job, you have to be at your beck and call. Good. I nodded my head and pointed to the handbag hanging next to me and asked with a smile, does Mr. Wang want to try my handiwork? Mr. Wang laughed out loud, respectfully from. After that, I resigned from my job at Tanyuhan Palace. However, when I handed in my resignation to my boss, his face, which had once smiled at me, suddenly turned gloomy, and there was no more easygoing countenance. Do you think this is a place where you can come and go as you please? His voice was low and threatening. I took a deep breath and looked at him firmly. I've made up my mind. I'll give you a day to think about it. If you insist on leaving, I have ways to put you in jail. The boss threatened. At this time, Mr. Wang came in with his lawyer. He smiled and talked to the boss of Tanyuhan Palace for a few words, then a helpless look appeared on the boss's face. He glared at me fiercely, then waved his hand to approve my resignation. In Mr. Wang's magnificent office building, time seemed to have become unusually leisurely. That day, I followed Mr. Wang to meet clients for the first time, and I was both nervous and full of anticipation. Dressed in a sexy tie-style dress and carrying a large handbag in my hand, I followed Mr. Wang into the luxuriously decorated conference room. The client was a middle-aged man who looked serious and critical. However, as I gently massaged him, a satisfied smile gradually appeared on his face. My fingers were like dexterous dancers, jumping between his shoulders and neck, bringing a burst of soothing sensation. As the massage progressed, the expression on the client's face became more and more relaxed, and he even closed his eyes, enjoying this rare moment of tranquility. In order to be able to conquer the client, after I finished the normal process massage, I pasted on his side and whispered, Mr. Qin, you have a lot of socializing outside, your kidney burden is a bit big, I have essential oils that specialize in maintaining the kidney, do you want to try it? Oh. You still have this skill, there's no harm in trying it. Mr. Qin was surprised. When I poured the special fuchsia essential oil on his abdomen, under my flexible hands pressing and kneading technique, he had the feeling of going back to his youth for the first time, and after he finally got released, he hugged me excitedly and said, almost 10 years without this feeling, thank you, in the future all my business will be given to your company, I only have one request, give me service once a month. It's my honor if Mr. Qin is satisfied. I smile. Good. General Manager Qin smiled broadly and walked out of the room after getting dressed. After meeting Mr. Wang outside, he signed the contract on the spot. A delighted smile appeared on Mr. Wang's face after he sent Mr. Qin away. After returning to the company, Mr. Wang personally made a payment of 200,000 as a commission. When I saw the number on that bank card, the joy in my heart bloomed like bright fireworks. The intensity of this work is not even 1/10 of that of Tang Yuhan Palace, and the income is 100 times that of the other side. However, this joy did not last long. When I told my husband that I earned 200,000 at one time, he showed a jealous look after being surprised. Then he smiled and said, "Wife, you help me to receive customers, okay, I have a high income, it is also good for you, in the future." I immediately interrupted and said, "What's good about reception on your side? Your boss gives you a commission of up to a few thousand, and you can't get in touch with the hit list, all you do is make money for your boss. But if not, my income is even less than yours, I won't get more than 20,000 a month even if I run my legs off, you get 200,000 for a random service." Hubby said reluctantly. "When you negotiate a project, does your boss give you a 1% commission? And those projects of yours are a few $100,000 at most, so 1% isn't much. I'm not going to do that for your boss." Hubby was speechless for a while, and finally stifled a sentence, "I don't care, you must help me receive clients, you are my woman, you must listen to me." "By what right, I won't." Hearing this, I immediately caught fire and refused without hesitation. "Paw!" Suddenly he gave me a slap, I covered my face and looked at him in shock and anger. "You hit me. You're just a bitch, what are you pretending? I'm already tired of playing, now the only value is to help me receive customers, can't do it, I'll play you to death." Looking at his hideous face, I never thought he married me for this purpose. I suddenly laughed, but the corner of my eyes shed tears. I thought I really met a man who didn't mind my identity and really loved me. It's true that my sisters are right, you can't trust all men. I turned around and was about to leave, he grabbed me by the hair and pulled me back, and his fists fell on my body like rain. I struggled to escape, but he held me so tightly that I couldn't move. The pain came like a tidal wave, and I gritted my teeth and bore it all in silence. However, his violent behavior didn't stop there. Instead, he became even more frantic. He beat me again and again until I was covered in bruises and cuts. It wasn't until he was tired of beating that he said viciously, "Tomorrow night, I'll bring in clients, and if you don't receive them, it won't be a slap, I'll use a belt, think about it, you stinking bitch." This night, I locked myself in the guest room and stayed awake all night. When I came to the office the next day, Mr. Wang saw the bruises on my body and asked with concern what had happened. I truthfully told him what happened, and he was furious after hearing that. He directly brought his lawyer to Zhu Haitao's door and warned him that if he ever dared to lay hands on me or force me to do something I didn't want to do, he would be sued. Zhu Haitao was shocked by Mr. Wang's power, and conceded on the spot and apologized to me. I thought that was the end of the matter, but I didn't realize that just a week later, he was up to his old tricks again. He brought clients to his home and forced me to receive them. Again, I refused his unreasonable demands, but he forced a drug on me. Then with a smug smile, he nodded to the client to signal that he could get ready. The client nervously said, "Is this okay, in case the police are called, it's rape." "Don't worry, she's just a bitch, I don't know how many men she sleeps with outside every day, you go on, I'll take care of the rest." The customer is nervous, but salivating my beauty, or excited to come over. "Zhu Haitao, you asshole, you're committing a crime." I yelled and struggled, but my body became powerless and my sanity was a bit unconscious. When I woke up, it was already the latter part of the night, my clothes had been stripped off and my body was covered in filth. I screamed, rushed into the bathroom, locked the door, and washed my body with a drenching rain, crying as I washed, crouching in the corner. "What the hell are you screaming for? Wash up, scream again and I'll make you scream for the rest of your life." Suddenly the bathroom door was kicked heavily, and the sound of Zhu Haitao running school came. I was afraid that he would hit me and squatted in the corner, covering my mouth and sobbing. "Chen Huifan, if you dare to call the police, I will get you killed, the big deal is to die together. You make a lot of money, I'm out there to be a grandson, dream on." Wang Haita yelled. This time I was completely desperate and dead to him. Early in the morning of the following day, I came to Mr. Wang's office and told him what happened last night and asked for his help. I knew he had a wide network and would have a way. Mr. Wang did not expect Zhu Haitao to dare to do such a thing. "I am his money tree, and will certainly protect it. On the spot notify the legal department, to Zhu Haitao charges." and take me to the hospital for identification, afterward to arrange a set of house for me, let me feel at ease to stay over there, back and forth to the company to let his driver and bodyguard transportation. The first day did not go back. Wang Haitao began to frantically call. I do not dare to answer, directly hang up. A week later, Mr. Wang and Mr. Zhou came over and took me to the court. The police have arrested Wang Haitao. Today is the time of the court hearing. In court, Mr. Wang's lawyers argued their case and took out all the evidence that could prove that Zhu Haitao had drugged his client to rape me. The police had gotten the exact evidence and finally sentenced Wang Haitao to 11 years in prison and his client to 3 years and 7 months. At the same time, the court approved the dissolution of our conjugal relationship. Because he had committed a major fault, he was sentenced to have all of the shared assets belong to me. Zhu Haitao did not have any expression for the result of the trial, just looked at me coldly, looking at my inexplicable fear. Thinking, he has now been sentenced, it is impossible to find me trouble, I forced myself to calm down. As a result, only 2 days after this matter ended, a large amount of my private information was rumored on the internet. It said that I was conducting pornographic transactions and that there were illegal transactions in Tanyuhan Palace. There were also my improper trading tactics at Wang headquarters, and I didn't expect Zhu Haitao to get his hands on my bag and film all these contents. This seriously affected my personal reputation and at the same time plunged the company into a major crisis. I know what I did is not allowed to see the light of day, and now when it is exposed, the company's stock market has fallen seriously. Mr. Wang had to ask the PR department to clarify the situation and at the same time spend money to deal with the content on the internet. But the content kept popping up like bamboo shoots, and the number was just too much to delete. And the company's stock price plummeted. Mr. Wang and Mr. Zhou had to choose to fire me to cut their losses. However, I had just left the company when a group of police officers suddenly rushed in and grabbed me without a second thought. "What are you guys doing? By what right do you arrest me?" I shouted as I struggled. The police took out several documents, which actually showed that I had sex transactions with several clients. My mind went blank and I let the police handcuff me and take me away. I was detained, and Mr. Wang was also taken away to assist in the investigation. The company's stock dropped directly, and even faced the risk of suspension. Mr. Wang went around looking for connections, wanting to bail me out. But this time the police are determined to investigate to the end. No one can do anything. I know this must be Zhu Haitao's doing, but none of us can understand how he can do all this when he's already locked up. I suddenly thought of the day of the court trial, his calm acceptance, the cold expression when he looked at me, and I felt a pang of fear at that time. In the end, the court accepted it, and I had no choice but to plead guilty to the crime. In the end, I was sentenced to 1 year and 2 months in prison. And Mr. Wang and Mr. Zhou were not spared, sentenced to 3 years and 6 months, and paid a huge fine. After the trial came out, the company's shares were down every day, and the losses were simply incalculable. I thought this was Zhu Haitao's revenge. I behaved as well as I could in prison to get my sentence reduced. Finally, I was released after 9 months in prison. Just out of the prison door, the boss of Tanyuhan Palace came down from the car and smiled at me. He walked up to me and smiled. "Mr. Wang and Mr. Zhou's kingdom has been divided up, and by the time they come out, the outside world will have changed. This time, you shouldn't refuse." I turned to leave. The boss laughed. "What happened to you? Made me Tanyuhan Palace also lost a lot, and was also seized for 3 months. This loss I have to get back. You can refuse, but after that, I don't guarantee your safety. You should have heard some rumors about me when you were in Tanyuhan Palace." Scared, I stopped in my tracks and said, "Same job as before." The boss laughed and leaned in close to me and whispered, "Isn't it great that you're doing all this with Mr. Wang and the others? It'll be the same with me." I gritted my teeth and finally agreed. I knew how powerful he was. I couldn't fight this kind of character as an ordinary person. I agreed. The boss laughed and put his hand on my shoulder, leading me into the car. After the car started, the boss smiled and said, "By the way, to tell you one thing, these messages you had before were sent by Zhu Haitao, who asked me to send them. That kid didn't have good intentions towards you from the beginning. But don't worry, as long as you are obedient, I can make that kid never come out." I clenched my fists tightly and looked out the car window, having lost hope for the future. Could it be that by choosing this line of work, you are destined to become someone else's tool?